On tonight's CTV News, an earthquake survivor speaks out about the resignation of the engineer of the CTV building. Labour announced their heritage plans, and Arana Park has the results of the Cheetah autopsy. This is CTV News, I'm Grant Mangan. Alan Ray, the consultant behind the design of the CTV building, escaped disciplinary action after quitting the engineer's professional body. Now his employee, David Harding, who helped with the design, has followed suit. Emma Cropper has the story.
With just over a week before his disciplinary hearing, David Harding, the engineer who designed the failed Canterbury television building, has quit the industry's professional body, leaving those who've been fighting for justice frustrated.
Well, I'm disappointed, but he's just following suit from Alan Ray. Alan Ray gets away with it. Dave Harding gets away with it.
Marianne Jackson was CTV's only employee to make it out of the building alive after it collapsed on February 22nd, 2011, killing 115 people, 16 of those from CTV. David Harding was the engineer employed by Alan Ray Consultants to help with the design of the building when it was built in 1986. And today, the Institution of Professional Engineers New Zealand says they received a letter of resignation from Mr Harding, leaving the IPENZ unable to make an order against Mr Harding in one of two disciplinary hearings scheduled for later this month. But Marianne Jackson believes those higher up the food chain are also responsible for the faulty building design.
Dave Harding was just doing what he was told to do by Alan Ray, and Alan Ray needs to take responsibility for not overseeing him, and he put him in a far too responsible position for what he was capable of.
A report by the Canterbury Earthquakes Royal Commission found the CTV building had serious design and construction flaws. It also noted Mr Harding was working beyond his competence. He was left largely unsupervised by Alan Ray, despite limited experience designing multi-level buildings.
I just don't know how they sleep at night. You know, why don't they just admit it, that they're in the wrong? They did the wrong thing.
But resigning from IPENZ doesn't mean they've got away with it. Working with engineers from America, the police are currently investigating the collapse and are yet to release their report.
I know they're not going to be off the hook. They might think they are, but they're not. They've got a long way to go yet.
A group of 60 family and friends of those who lost their lives in the building will continue to fight for justice and accountability. But February 22nd will always sit in the back of the survivors' minds, especially on days like today.
Different times it affects me, but today it is. And I don't know why, maybe just different times it does affect you, other days it's fine, but it's not a day that goes past that you don't think about them all.
Mr Harding will still face a disciplinary hearing on July 14th regarding his reassessment for continued registration as a chartered professional engineer. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
Labour announced today they would like to see public consultation on the future of heritage buildings before demolition begins.
It's back to the drawing board for the future of the Christchurch Cathedral if Labour goes into government. Under a Labour government, Labour's Arts, Cultural and Heritage spokesperson, Jacinda Ardern, says the public will have their say on the future of iconic buildings like the Christchurch Cathedral. Labour says Section 38 of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Act has allowed the demolition of more than a dozen heritage buildings without public consultation, most recently the Majestic.
We believe it is time those powers were removed. We have come to a point now with enough time has passed that it is no longer just about safety, it is about trying to retain the heritage and character of this beautiful city.
The policy was well received by local contemporaries. The Honourable Jim Anderton says cities without historic buildings are cities without memories.
Future generations are going to judge us on how we act now, because we've got to start thinking about the future of the city, and the future of the city really starts with what we've got left and preserving that and fighting to preserve it.
Jacinda Ardern says in most cases the buildings were knocked down, not because the damage was beyond repair, but because it was the easiest solution. Anna Crichton, former city councillor and elected member of the District Health Board, says too much time has passed and it's incredible the SIR Act is still being used to demolish buildings without consultation.
It's still being used and it's still being abused, because there are some buildings that are perfectly fine, heritage buildings, still standing, where the owners would prefer or would try to get their building demolished under that Section 38.
Labor plans to protect the heritage of Canterbury by implementing an audit system, ensuring decisions go through a proper consultation process under the Resource Management Act.
I think it's a bit of an assumption that knocking down heritage buildings speeds the rebuild up. In fact, restoration doesn't necessarily have to be the slowest option.
Labor is hoping to approach the Canterbury recovery with a mindset of preservation and not a bias towards destruction.
Now that we've ensured that public safety has been paramount, that we move on to a place of saying, well, look, is it possible to make sure we progress the plans for the city in particular, but also retain some of the beautiful heritage buildings.
Jacinda Arden says it's about looking after the history of Canterbury in the wake of the earthquakes. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
The Christchurch City Council is calling for public submissions to its draft plan for psychoactive products.
It's not about the products themselves, it's about where they are sold. The Christchurch City Council has been working on the psychoactive products retail locations policy and is now calling for public consultation. The psychoactive products in question are party pills and legal highs. The government's Psychoactive Substances Amendment Act bans the sale of legal highs now, but it is only temporary. Strategy and Planning Committee Chair Jamie Goff says the council are planning ahead. If the retailers of the products are licensed again, the council wants policies in place to guide where they may locate their business. The policy permits the businesses to only be in the central city and not within 50 metres of other psychoactive product retailers. The businesses will not be allowed within 100 metres of sensitive sites, such as playgrounds, early childhood centres, schools, tertiary educations and drug and treatment support centres. Submissions close on the 4th of August and the council are expecting to formally adopt the policy later this year.
Christchurch Hospital is receiving one of the most expensive upgrades in New Zealand history, set to be completed in the next 4 years.
400 extra beds will be added to Christchurch Hospital by 2018, thanks to special legislation. The Ministry of Health asked the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Minister Jerry Brownlee to exercise his powers, ensuring the prompt delivery of the city's new acute services building at Christchurch Hospital. The building will house essential health services, including a new accident and emergency department, new operating theatres, purpose-designed facilities for children and an expanded intensive care unit. The redevelopment of Christchurch and Burwood hospitals is a $650 million government investment in Canterbury health facilities, the biggest ever in New Zealand. The decision comes after facilities became damaged following the earthquakes as well as an ageing population, meaning existing facilities won't be sufficient for the city's population by the end of 2018. The new building will be constructed at the back of Christchurch Women's Hospital and adjoined to the already existing hospital. Construction is expected to begin as soon as possible.
Coming up, fresh snow arrives for the school holidays.
Every Saturday evening at 8 o'clock, we screen a riveting and educational documentary, ranging from history to music, culture to religion, and everything in between. Saturday night documentary, 8 o'clock, right here on CTV. It's Canterbury.
All the laughter. All the potential. All the hopes and dreams. In less than 24 hours, meningococcal C can take it all away. Forever. A simple immunisation can help prevent the heartbreak. Protect with Meningotech.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? or on our par 3 9-hole golf course. Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park. Missed a show or want to watch it again? CTV is fitting in with your lifestyle. Be in control with CTV On Demand. Check out our website and follow the links, ctv.co.nz.
Our friends and family celebrate and live their lives in all sorts of ways. So it's always hard and sad with the passing of a loved one. We at Palmer Funerals know and understand this, and we believe that their life should still be celebrated even when they have gone. With our newly built chapel, we can help tailor-make a funeral which is unique and personal to you and help celebrate their life while making your difficult time easier. Palmer Funeral Services. Tailor-made funerals.
Every Saturday evening at 8 o'clock, we screen a riveting and educational documentary ranging from history to music, culture to religion, and everything in between. Saturday night documentary, 8 o'clock, right here on CTV. It's Canterbury.
A Christchurch City Councillor is pushing ahead with plans to set up a temporary shelter for the homeless.
This is what the Christchurch City Council's housing chairman wants to avoid, a line of people desperate for something to eat. Many of them, if not all of them, are homeless and they rely on various groups for their meals. In May, Christchurch City Councillor Glenn Livingston visited the group to see firsthand how they were coping. He proposed to set up a temporary shelter to house the homeless.
What I would like is a transitional shelter for people with all the agencies involved, because there's some obvious, social needs and things, and a joined-up approach. So that will take resourcing, it'll take money, organisation, and a lot of subtlety and skill.
So how far has Councillor Livingston's proposal come since then?
There's been a lot of talk behind the scenes. There are things actually happening, and something will happen by way, I hope, of a transitional emergency centre of some sort. I'm not sure of the built form, but we're very aware of people living without shelter in Latimer Square and the fact we need to do something.
The housing crisis extends beyond those who turn out to Latimer Square. There are homeless people living in the east as well. Due to a lack of rental accommodation, more and more people are having to be inventive with their living conditions. Councillor Livingston is now taking his proposal to Tuesday's Housing Committee meeting. But why is this only happening more than 6 weeks after we first spoke?
Because we've tried to do it quietly behind the scenes to protect people's privacy and not, they're subjects, not objects. I don't think that's working, and I think we need to elevate it.
He believes the temporary shelter could be set up by the end of August.
Yeah, no, you still get snow August, September. So it's, a good part of the winter's gone, but not completely.
However, the need for this shelter is growing day by day. Other than abandoned buildings, some of these people have nowhere to call home. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Autopsy results have been released for the Orana Wildlife Park cheetah that died at Wellington Zoo at the end of May.
Happier days, 5-year-old Chamari before his trip north to Wellington Zoo. Unfortunately, zoo staff found him unconscious upon arrival. Vets worked through the night trying to save him, but he did not survive. New autopsy results show Chamari had reacted badly to an anaesthetic, suffering severe brain damage before going into cardiac arrest.
It's really a tough loss, and it's tragic.
Before flying to Wellington, both Chamari and his brother Kango were given a general anaesthetic to help move them into crates. Once they arrived, a registered specialist from Massey University was consulted, and Chamari was administered a drug in an attempt to reverse the effects of the sedative.
The reversal actually prompted a new set of seizures, and from there, basically his jaw clamped shut, and they needed to artificially ventilate him, and his condition went downhill, and he died 90 minutes later.
Orana staff say he was fit for travel before the plane left.
We had no concerns about his condition. So basically he was sleeping.
In its 20 years of running a cheetah breeding program, this is the only time something like this has happened to Orana.
These same drugs over the last 25 years have been used with our entire Cheetah collection, Shamari has also had those drugs many times before for health, surgery, etc. And there could also be a case of it just being one of these unfortunate things.
Shamari flew to Wellington with his brother Kango as part of the Cheetah Ambassador program. Kango's other brother has since joined him at the zoo.
Kango was very sad to be without his brother Shamari, and he was calling. So in terms of Kango's welfare, we sent Kango's other brother Kunjuka up to Wellington to be with him.
The team at Arana Wildlife Park are focusing on their breeding program and are planning to learn from this tragedy. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
If you were planning to head to Mount Hutt in the weekend, you're in luck. Fresh snow has covered the mountain in time for the school holidays.
Mount Hutt is the place to be right now. Skiers are tearing up the mountain after a 17 centimetre dumping of fresh snow.
This new snow has just improved things by an order of magnitude on the main trails, and we've got some great wintry, powdery, chalky snow out there at the moment on the trails.
The ski field opened for the season in the middle of June, and snow lovers have been enjoying the mountain ever since, but it was starting to run thin.
And if it hadn't been for our snowmaking that we'd done just prior to opening, we would have probably had to shut up shop until this new snow arrived.
Hundreds, if not thousands, will pour over the mountain over the next fortnight of school holidays.
You know, we're still really skiing on just on the main trails. If we want to push things a little bit wider, we'll probably need a little bit more snow. There's a few pockets of off-trail skiing and riding where some of this new snow that we got yesterday is blown into areas where you can still link some good turns. But at the moment, it's really just skiing on the main trails.
Despite the lack of snow, visiting Australians have been busy tearing up the ski fields since its opening. After the boost of the white stuff and with the help of Mount Hutt's 45 snowmaking guns, this season won't wind up until September. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Fletcher Building and the Ministry of Youth are partnering together to bring more safe and enjoyable events to the city for the young people of Canterbury.
$150,000 investing into the lives of young Cantabrians through youth-led initiatives. The aim of the Winter Chill event series is to get Cantabrians from 12 years old to 24 involved in Christchurch events.
There's a lot of money going in to try and make sure that separate to the infrastructure recovery, we actually do everything that we can to help with what is the people recovery in the city. And that's really hard.
The initiative was developed in response to the 2013 Youth Wellbeing Survey. One of the major ideas was the need for safe and enjoyable places for young people to go. Investing into youth, Fletcher's Building is contributing $50,000 to start the project. Minister Nikki Kay recently announced the Ministry of Youth Development's Canterbury Youth Initiatives Fund is investing $100,000.
Because we actually want to do everything we can to give young Cantabrians access to some positive activities during this time when they don't have access to all of their infrastructure. But then also we want to enable some of the young leaders in Canterbury to be able to step up with projects that might make a difference.
The Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority Chief Executive Roger Sutton believes young people are excited about the rebuild. Roger Sutton says Winter Chill is a chance for them to get out and make the most of what the city has to offer while having a fun time. Wanting to make a difference, the Associate Minister of Education, Nikki Kay, is encouraging the grassroots youth organisations to apply for the fund.
Whether it is a project helping young people with mental health issues, we need to more and more get young people engaged in the social recovery of Canterbury.
Investing into the future generation of Cantabrians. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
Still to come, a popular radio show host will return as the university's new chaplain.
Tomorrow Today is your science program, presenting a comprehensive overview of the latest trends in science and research. Tomorrow Today, Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m, right here on CTV.
Pestrel has the latest technology that repels rats and mice and even helps control cockroaches. Covers walls, ceilings and open spaces. Combines electromagnetic, ultrasonic and ionic technologies. Harmless to pets and people, just plug it in. Order your Pestrel rodent-free today. Now $149.90 plus courier. Order within 20 minutes and get it courier free. Call 0800 88 88 44 or go to pestrel.co.nz.
You right, mate? Can you hear me? Hey, you, can you hear me? Can you help me? I need you to call 111 for an ambulance.
If an accident happens and you didn't know what to do, prepare for what could be the longest wait of your life. Know when before you need it. Call 0800 Red Cross and enrol in a Red Cross first aid course today.
Have you seen something you like? You can purchase a copy of CTV's own shows so you can watch them again and again. So give us a call on 3777 033 and order a copy today.
Europe in concert. A new, fantastic international artist performing every week. Saturday evening at 7 p.m, right here on CTV.
A popular radio show host turned minister, the Reverend Spanky Moore, will return to the University of Canterbury as the new senior chaplain.
The University of Canterbury has a new senior chaplain, one who is best known for his time as a radio host instead of a preacher. Once radio personality, father, husband, Anglican minister, and now Canterbury's University's new chaplain, Reverend Joshua Spanky Moore, has it all covered. Reverend Moore will step into his new role in the beginning of the second semester, replacing Tom Innes. The minister was titled with the nickname Spanky from the time he spent in his Christchurch punk band, Clown Dog. The popular musicians became infamous in New Zealand for throwing raw meat at their audiences during live performances. Better known around campus as a former radio host on the student station, the Anglican minister believes he will bring some unique perspectives to being chaplain.
RDU listeners are pretty notoriously challenging of sort of institutions and sort of classic ideas. So I think sort of being used to dealing with all this sort of diversity of opinions means I'm used to connecting with people with where they're at.
Reverend Moore says his listenership were by and large people who viewed the church with suspicion and yet were intrigued by the idea of faith and spirituality.
What does faith look like when it hits the ground? You know, what actual difference does it make? And I think that people are still asking all those big questions of meaning and how they should live their day-to-day lives and how do you make good decisions and what's the actual, what's the purpose of existence? So I think the real challenge is actually finding out where are some of those connection points that people are starting to do that.
The new chaplain will start his role at Canterbury University on the 14th of July. Joelle Bautista, CTV News.
If you're driving around the Christchurch Central City, CTV's traffic update will assist you navigating the repairs taking place.
Hello travellers, to help you plan your journey around the Central City, here's a few tips. First up, some good news. Colombo Street is now open with no restrictions from Morehouse Avenue to the Square. Madras Street between Latimer Square to Beeley Avenue is down to one lane in parts, so avoid this if you want a jam-free journey. Madras Street north of Beeley Avenue is restricted to northbound traffic only this week. Southbound traffic moving down Madras Street to Beeley Avenue is recommended to use either Barbados Street or Fitzgerald Avenue. To keep up to date on what's happening with the Central City roads, keep watching CTV News first at 5 every night, and in the meantime visit the Transport for Christchurch website.
Well, it was another cold morning this morning, but didn't those mountains look spectacular? Will the snow stay? Will it melt? Let's find out with your regional weather.
Good evening, Canterbury. Here's your region's weather for Thursday. In Timaru, Temuka and Geraldine, a brisk 9 degrees. Bethvin hit 8, while Ashburton and Rakai were slightly warmer on 9. Darfield, Leeston and Ralston were on 9 today, as well as Lincoln and Christchurch. Looking at Akaroa now, 8 degrees. And Rangiora, Kapoi and Amberley 9. Same for up the top in Culverden, Hanmer Springs, Cheviot and Kaikoura, 9 degrees. It's looking pretty chilly tomorrow though. In Timaru, fine and sunny with some high cloud developing during the afternoon, but cold with moderate westerly winds, hitting -3 overnight and a high of 11 during the day. In Ashburton, clear skies and cool westerly winds for your Friday, with a solid frost at first though, hitting -3 overnight and 11 during the day. In Christchurch, westerly winds are developing, with some high cloud later in the day, but sunny and frosty at first, -3 overnight, hitting a high of 11. Kaikoura, mostly fine and sunny with a cold frosty start and westerlies developing throughout the day, hitting -3 overnight and a high of 11 during the day. It's cold around the other areas in the region as well. Temuka and Geraldine, a low of -4 and a high of 11. Methven, -4, Rakaia, -3 overnight. Methven, -4 and Rakaia, -3 overnight, both hitting a high of 11 during the day. Darfield, Leeston and Ralston expect cloud and a high of 11 with a low of -3 and -4. Over in Akaroa, -1 overnight and a high of 11. Rangiora, Kapoi and Amberley, a low of -3 and a high of 11. Up the top in Culverden, Hanmer Springs and Cheviot, -5 overnight and a high of 10 degrees. And as we look ahead at what's in store for the rest of Canterbury, cloud increasing on Saturday morning with a brief period of wintry showers developing in the afternoon. Some brief hail and sleet with snow above 300 metres, and showers clearing again by the evening. Will be very cold with southwesterlies strong and gusty around the middle of the day, but then decreasing. Mostly fine and sunny on Sunday with moderate cold southwesterlies, but expect frosts in the morning and at night. Fine with high cloud increasing on Monday and light southwesterly winds tending northeasterly, but it still will be rather cold. Cloudy and cold on Tuesday and Wednesday as well, with moderate northeasterlies expected. That's all for your region's weather. Have a lovely evening.
Well, wrap up warm if you're heading out tonight. It's going to be very, very cold. Well, that's CTV News for Thursday. I'm Grant Mangan. Good night.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.